Welcome to our show, Obsessed, where we talk about cryptids, mythology, folklore, and whatever else we're currently obsessed with. I'm Caitlin Palmer.
And I'm Clay.
And we're
Obsessed.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Obsessed with the Palmers. We're so happy to have you. This week, Clay has a little something in store that even hearing about it can cause bad things to happen, Clay.
You jumping right in then. Yeah, so, normally I don't tell you what the subject is before because I think that's better for the podcast for you to hear about it right then and there. But in this case, it's because I first have to warn you of the dangers of hearing about today's topic.
Oh, geez.
To make sure that you're okay with hearing about today's topic.
Am I going to be okay with hearing about today's topic?
I mean,
I kind of don't have a choice, but you, listener, have been warned.
We do have to do the podcast.
Yeah.
And that comes with certain risks. And today is one of those where just hearing about it, I don't know, might lead to an eternity of torture.
Oh, like going to hell?
Kinda, yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, shit. I was raised Catholic. I'm going there no matter what.
This is a different hell.
Oh. Really?
Yeah, this is a techno hell. So, our listeners may or may not know what the topic is before this moment. I'm going to do my best to try to scramble the text to where if you search for it, you'll still find it. But if you're just looking at it and have never heard of this thing, you will be unable to read the text.
Okay.
To protect them. So today's topic was actually suggested by somebody, and I will not reveal her identity for her own safety.
Oh. But you'll tell me later.
But I'll tell you in the course of this podcast.
I'm excited.
Also, she told me to do it for reasons that will become apparent as we get in here.
I'm scared.
Why it was so important for her to tell me and why now it is important for me to tell other people.
Okay, I'm nervous, but I'm here for it.
So, of course, all of our information comes from Wikipedia.
Clay, you gotta find other sources other than Wikipedia, man.
I do have other sources besides Wikipedia. I have a few forums as well as Wired.com that we're going into, plus my own personal knowledge that I knew about this beforehand.
I'm excited.
So before I can talk about today's subject, I have to explain the dangers of today's subject.
Okay.
So have you ever heard of an information hazard?
Only briefly.
So if you're a fan of SCP, you've probably heard the term cognito hazard. Mm-hmm. This is similar to that, except it's real. It's a real thing. An information hazard is defined as a risk that arises from the dissemination of true information that may cause harm or enable some agent to cause harm. So in SCPs, it's you see something and it drives you mad or
right.
it haunts you in some way. An information hazard is an idea, is information that is hazardous to know. Mm-hmm. So an example of this would be knowing how to build an atomic bomb.
Sure.
Is an information hazard. It's something you don't want everybody to know about because everybody might not want to build an atomic bomb. But if one person builds an atomic bomb, it is going to be hazardous for a lot of people.
Sure.
A lot of times, this information, as soon as it is classified as an information hazard, is secured away in some way. It's classified. Only certain people of certain rank can see this information for that kind of reason. It's a safety thing.
Sure.
Much like how, not just building a bomb, but maybe being able to, say, 3D print a gun, which is becoming more and more common.
I mean, it is what it is.
It be what it be. So there's a couple different classifications of information hazards. You have data hazards, which are pieces of data that can be used. An example would be the DNA sequence of a lethal pathogen. Because, much like with the atomic bomb, you don't want people to have access to that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because everybody might not be able to, say, synthesize a brand new turbo disease that'll kill off 80% of the population, but you don't want it to be commonplace enough. It's all about numbers, right? Law of large numbers.
Sure.
You get 100 people know about this? Maybe 100 people, between 100 people, no one has the capabilities. You get 100 million people that know about this. Well, the chances increased dramatically. Another categorization is idea hazards, which is just the idea of something. And that one is hard to control because people are full of ideas. People are thinking all the time.
Always. Do you have an internal monologue?
I do.
I do too.
But it only comes around when I think about it.
No, mine's always there. Always.
But when I think about it, then, hey, look at that. It's an idea hazard because it ruins my fucking day because then I can't stop it from narrating inside of my head the whole time.
Mine's always going.
Clay farted hard enough to shit his pants.
Well,
He may or may not have, but this is something that he'll have to find out later. Also known as Schrodinger's skid marks.
Go on.
But an example of an idea hazard would be, say, getting the proper chemicals to build a bomb. To blow up a place of your choice. These are all ideas that are more or less harmless on their own, but in the minds of certain individuals become actionable.
Reality, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have knowing too much hazards, which your conspiracy theorists out there are going to, jump and rave and scream about it.
Yeah.
They're going to be very excited about the idea of knowing too much hazards. So knowing too much hazards, a lot of people who are deep into conspiracy theories really enjoy that because it's, you know too much, the black suits show up and they take you away somewhere.
Right. Of course they make you think you're crazy.
Right, yeah, they make
So
you
no
think
one
you're
else will
crazy.
believe
That's
you.
a way to suppress the knowing too much hazards.
Right.
Because then the people that do know too much of it can't act on it because
Right.
they can't gain any tractions. But a good example of this that Wikipedia lists is 1600s. Women
Doing anything.
pretty much doing anything, but yeah, knowing anything. Knowing too much math. Knowing how to cure a disease. All of these are telltale signs of witchcraft.
Witch!
So, in that case, a knowing too much hazard is a danger to yourself. So, a lot actually goes into these, and our government does actually actively participate in suppressing a lot of these different hazards because, like I said, just knowing about them can cause extreme harm. So you're not going to just find on the internet the instructions how to build an atomic bomb. But what you will find is if you Google how to build an atomic bomb, you might get a visitor.
Oh, yeah?
In the form of an FBI agent who is very curious as to what it is you're doing and why you're doing it.
I hate that.
So, conspiracy theorists are right on this.
I follow
Put in the children cheering, yay! Because if you do know too much, the government might get involved.
Right.
It may not be because of a giant conspiracy theory, but rather that the information that you are uncovering is harmful, not because there's some great secret truth they're trying to conceal, but rather certain information is dangerous to other people.
That makes sense. A lot of people are very unhinged.
I know how to create several different gas-based poisons with the things under your sink.
Yeah.
I am not going to instruct anybody on how to do that.
Or is he?
Or no, I will not. But
It's in the hidden subliminal messages of
for
this
instance,
episode.
if you mix and you'll get mustard gas.
Oh, I didn't know that. Now I also know how to make mustard gas.
For you at home, I have put in a bleep to bleep out those things, but I did not actually tell my wife how to make mustard gas.
Yeah, I did.
But I did get onto her one time because she accidentally bought some dish soap that had some of those chemicals in it that I use to clean my CPAP machine, and I mix other chemicals to help with that cleaning process, and those chemicals aren't supposed to be together. I almost filled my CPAP machine with deadly toxin.
Jesus.
In that case, that was an info hazard that was actually beneficial. Because
Yeah.
I knew about it, I didn't die a violent death.
I'm very glad. Very glad.
So now that we know about information hazards, and we understand that the knowledge of something can be dangerous on its own, are you still willing to learn about today's topic?
I have to, but listener, this is your chance to.
This is your chance to leave. Once you've heard it, you can't unhear it. You can't forget about it. And if you fail to act upon this information, you and your family will be tortured for seemingly all eternity, if this is to be believed. Much like how we covered Cthulhu, today is a little outside of our normal cryptid-like thing, but it is still kind of a cryptid in a sense.
I have no idea what the hell you're talking about.
But also it involves violent cults.
Okay.
Which, in this case, do actually exist today.
Yeah, they do.
No, I mean, like, this particular cult exists today and has killed people. So today's topic is about Roko's Basilisk.
Okay.
Do you know what a basilisk is?
I know about the creature, the basilisk.
Right. A basilisk is a draconic, serpentine-like creature that can turn you to stone with its gaze. If you look into its eyes, or if its eyes look upon you, in some cases, you can be turned to stone.
Okay, so you don't have to make eye contact with it. It can just look at you and you turn to stone?
It can peer at you and make you turn to stone.
Cool.
A story that was released in 1988, a short story called Blit, B-L-I-T,
okay,
is where this creature gets its name from, because it's not a traditional basilisk in this sense. But it has some common ground with a basilisk if you are referring to this specific story in which a painter paints a basilisk on a wall as a terrorist act, where anyone who look upon the image have malevolent thoughts or effects put into their mind, forcing them to think things.
Oh, interesting. There's a painting of some polar bears like that, too.
What?
Yeah, there's a painting of two polar bears, and it's like at a school, and they have to cover it up, like when they're doing tests and stuff, because one time a girl killed a bunch of people.
Holy shit.
Yeah, the polar bears made her do it. Don't eat polar bear liver.
Yeah, don't do that. That'll make you die.
Yeah.
Well, in this story, it makes you think thoughts that are unthinkable, and therefore you die instantly by just looking at the painting.
Okay.
That would be
Very Lovecraftian.
a sort of info hazard that would fall more into how SCP describes cognitohazards.
Okay.
That viewing something is even not understanding it, just laying eyes upon something killing you. So that's where Roko's Basilisk comes from.
Okay. Roko's the artist?
Roko is the name of a user who created this thought experiment.
Oh, okay.
So this is not a physical creature that exists here in the meat space, but rather
meat space.
rather a theoretical creature that, if it exists, can do great harm. In this thought experiment, there is an otherwise benevolent AI, superintelligence, in the future that will punish anyone who knows about it that does not spend their every waking moment trying to help it get built faster.
Oh, interesting.
So it is, in a sense, retroactively creating itself by forcing people in the past to aid it now, which will help it in the future.
Ooh, okay. We've got a time thing.
Got a time thing. So, and we'll get into the time thing later, because there are some issues with this thought experiment. It's scary on the surface, but by the time I'm done explaining it might not be so scary anymore.
Sure.
But yes, that is the idea of the thought experiment. And by knowing that, now you are implicit. Because now that you know about it, you have to spend your time doing everything you can to aid in the creation of this super AI in the future.
Okay, how do I do that?
Anything, telling other people is one way, is the most common way.
I'm going to go on Facebook right now.
So it's a lot like The Ring. Ringu.
I love The Ring. The books are so good. The movie's so good. Everything's so good.
It's all so good.
It's so good.
Sadako, fantastic, Killer, and Dead by Daylight.
Yeah, she is in Dead by Daylight.
Yeah, so the most common way would be spreading the knowledge of Roko's Basilisk. Because the more people that know about it, the more people could potentially aid it. So even if you were incapable of, say, writing code or funneling government funds into creating the super AI.
I might know somebody who can.
You might know that somebody that can, or you might just tell people and then the right person hears it.
Sure.
The super AI does not care as long as you are actively trying to do it. It doesn't care necessarily if you're failing or not. But if you know about it, you must do this. You must perform these acts. So the thought experiment about it becomes, is it morally okay to tell people about it? And some people listening to this who are terrified of Roko's Basilisk think I'm a monster now because I have helped spread this in the best way that I can, which is putting it on our fucking podcast and letting a bunch of people listen to it. In the original thought experiment, Roko's Basilisk, it cannot typically harm you in the present because that would fuck with causality, which if you're a super nerd into time travel and the like, you'll understand. You're shaking your head, you're nodding silently to yourself like, oh yes, causality. You know me, I like time travel, but I subscribe to a certain type of time travel.
Sure, I like it to an extent, but then after a while I just get annoyed with it.
Yeah, because time travel is otherwise impossible, and we can only speculate at how it might actually be done.
Right.
And maybe I pissed somebody off by saying that, but you know what? Prove me wrong. Well, actually, I'm a little scared if you, out of spite, go to invent time travel. Because, you know, a lot of theories on how time travel would work, you'd fuck a lot of shit up. So in the original...
Or fix a lot of shit.
No, it's usually mess it up.
Yeah, no, it's always
just like,
mess it up. It never actually goes right.
That's the moral about not being happy with the way things have turned out. Right. Is like, it could be worse.
It could always be worse.
It could be
Never
so much worse.
Never say it can't.
It is far more likely to have been worse than to be better.
Facts.
So, in this, the Basilisk can't really, say, kill you in the past, because that would mess up too many things. It would probably do it more harm. And also, it would be taking away resources from itself, which is a discussion we'll probably have to get into about this.
Okay.
In that, torturing people to have them bring you about is a really ineffective way of bringing yourself into existence. Because people aren't really going to want to cooperate with that, and if you torture people enough, it takes them out of your workforce, where apparently every hand helps, is the general idea of Roko's Basilisk. In the original, what it does instead is it ruins your life currently by blackmailing you.
Oh.
Either you help it, or it disseminates a bunch of harmful information in the past about what you're going to do. Because it knows, because it's in the future. And as long as whatever you did is on public record, or it has access to it in some way, it can use that information against you. That could be your search history. How damning would that be?
So one time, I seriously for a minute thought we were going to have the Men in Black show at our house, because I follow a hairless cat, like, you know, the Sphinx cats, a cattery, and the name of their cattery is Little Nudists, which is cute.
Oh, no, yeah, but could be problematic if the Google safe search is off.
And it was, and I didn't click on anything, but I was like, oh my God. I actually got up and got dressed. I was like, they're going to show up here in just a few minutes.
They're on their way.
They're on their way. They didn't, though.
There were some stationed out by the church and the school just out in front of our house.
Right. Oops.
They were waiting. I was like, oh, we got one. So, all of this comes from a website called Less Wrong, which is a forum site for a particular group of people known as the Rationalists.
Okay.
Which is a group of people. Now, this is where we're kind of getting into the cult bit here, because the Rationalists themselves are not necessarily a cult, but there are some offshoots of them who didn't quite vibe with how the Rationalists do things, and wanted to do things a little bit differently.
Like every religion ever.
Yeah, pretty much. So, rationalists, I don't really want to get into what a rationalist is, because I didn't really do a lot of research on what a rationalist is.
Fantastic.
They're described as using rationality to avoid cognitive biases. Common interests include transhumanism, statistics, effective altruism, and mitigating existential risk from artificial general intelligence.
I don't know what most of that means.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't care. I'm not really talking about them. I'm talking about some people that left that community and started their own
radicals,
community.
Yeah.
Some radicals. So, this started on a forum for rationalists, right? This thought experiment cropped up, and the co-founder of the site, known as Less Wrong, the co-founder, Eliezer Yudkowsky,
Okay.
probably not saying the name right, but got so freaked out by this idea that they banned all discussion of it from the site for 5 whole fucking years.
Damn.
They're like, nobody talks about it. You talk about it, you get kicked off the site, you get blocked, you get muted, whatever.
Damn.
No one's talking about this. They were really freaked out about it. And to really put into perspective how freaked out about it they actually went on a tirade, specifically on how people should not talk about or spread in any way info hazards in general. Mm-hmm. But obviously the Roko Basilisk really kind of kickstarted that off because it was simple enough to understand, right? It's like, if you know about this thing and you don't help create it, it fucks your whole shit up. So to quote them on their own site, "I don't usually talk like this, but I'm going to make an exception for this case. Listen to me very closely, you idiot." This is talking to Roku, the user himself. "You do not think in sufficient detail about superintelligences considering whether or not to blackmail you. That is the only possible thing which gives them a motive to follow through on the blackmail. You have to be really clever to come up with a genuinely dangerous thought. I am disheartened that people can be clever enough to do that and not clever enough to do the obvious thing and keep their idiot mouths shut about it. Because it is much more important to sound intelligent when talking to your friends. This post was stupid." Which, all that they said could be said to me, because I'm talking, I'm also talking about it. So there is a bit of irony in quoting that.
Radical friends, this is Clay's idea, not mine.
This was my idea, but morally, I'm not bankrupt for spreading this information, and I'll explain that at the end.
And I'm Clay's ride or die, so, you know.
Right, of course. People, after seeing this, started going on and explaining they were having nightmares about the basilisk, that it was invading their dreams. It was, that it was creeping into their psyche in their everyday life, and was actually making their lives pretty bad. Not in any measurable sense other than just filling you with dread and, terror of this thing that might destroy your life. And of course, the brain does funny things when you start to think about things like that. It's just your brain talking to itself, but you hear those little whispers like, oh, do this, or I'm going to do that.
Right.
And that becomes very real to you because all of that is ephemeral to begin with.
Sure.
It is all just fog in the brain.
As an anxious OCD person, I feel this.
Later, Yudkowsky did make a post, I think on Reddit, so not even their own site, where they talked about regretting yelling at Roko. Basically saying that they overreacted and, that kind of thing.
And Roko definitely didn't tell them definitely did not tell them to post that.
I don't think that Roko has any power.
Oh, okay.
A lot of people do say about Roko's Basilisk that you shouldn't call it Roko's Basilisk because Roko, I keep saying Roku, Roko as a user is a giant piece of shit. And I think I can say that without any backlash, except by people that I don't care if I get backlash from, because he is extremely racist and probably a neo-Nazi. So, yeah, Roko sucks. I don't say. And his idea is stupid. and that's what we're going to get into, is how dumb his idea is. So, before I can talk about how dumb his idea is, I do have to talk about the people that took this too seriously. Which is why I'm going to talk about how dumb this idea is. Because I would love to help contribute in some way to the world instead of building a super AI. This is about the members that left the rationalist community and created a new community referred to as Zizians, or Zizians, and I don't know, it's Zizians.
Zizians?
Yes, that's what I said, Ziz. So the Zizians kind of dropped some of the other aspects of the rationalists and adopted a more fervent belief in things like Roko's Basilisk. It really, really clinged on to that. One prominent member of this small community that started does actually say that initially they did not believe in Roko's Basilisk, but then came to believe in it, which is kind of, in an Ouroboros way, feeding into itself that information can be dangerous, even if it's not dangerous information.
Yeah.
In this case, it was dangerous. Not for the person who thought about it, but for the people that suffered at that person's hands. So the name of their group, the Zizians, why that sounds so strange is because they would actually be classified as this group by the rationalist community as a way of ostracizing them from their group because their beliefs.
You're not one of us, you're one of them.
Right, you're one of these because the perceived leader's name is Ziz Lasota.
That's a cool name.
Ziz or Ziz? I think it's Ziz. Ziz Lasota. But it is stated that the members of the group never actually adopted this name themselves. This is just how other people referred to them. So, what happened is documented, but this is one of those cases where the stories kind of diverge a bit. You know, he said, she said kind of thing, where you have a factual account of all the details, but no one's entirely sure exactly how factual they are.
Sure.
A lot of things get jumbled around, a lot of hearsay. The long and short is that this group was renting together, and their landlord said that they hadn't been paying rent and was kicking them out.
Sure.
This all sort of culminated into a moment where a tenant, Patrick McMillan, awoke to someone knocking on his door, opened it, and found the landlord standing at his trailer with a sword sticking out of his body.
Okay.
Saying, quote, "I'm dying."
Oh. I guess what else do you say?
What else do you say? Hey, if you haven't noticed a sword yet,
you're about to.
Here it is. Can you please get me some money? I guess, it's kind of one of those things. It's like, do you just say like, hey, I need an ambulance, I guess?
Right. Yeah, what do you say?
What do you say? I mean, I don't know. I've been in situations similar, like after, that one car wreck, hitting a tree going 70. They're like, do you need an ambulance? And I'm like, I guess. And they're like, I need a yes or a no. And I'm like, well, I can't physically remove myself from the car. They're like, all right, we're sending you an ambulance.
Right. And then you called your job and you were like,
hey, I'm going to be a little late. I did not go to work that day. I did go to the hospital.
Yeah.
That story ends with me not having a single broken bone in my body, however, but I did need, I think, like 7 or 9 stitches in my lip because
your lip got fucked up.
Yeah, I do have a pretty gnarly scar now.
It's really cool. I like it.
I actually pulled up my lip a bit. You could see my teeth through my closed mouth.
Yeah, he did. It was so cool. And then the nurse came in and she was like, I heard someone needs stitches. And Clay sticks his tongue through the hole in the new hole in his mouth.
Yeah, she didn't think it was as funny as I did.
Yeah,
I was like, I thought you see this stuff all the time. So
I know, I thought it was funny.
I was like, yeah, I think I need a few, and I pulled my lip up, And she's like,
Well, when I slipped in horseshit and tore my ACL and had to go to the ER and tell them what happened to me, and I told them like about my knee like cracking and going the wrong way, everyone was like, oh.
I thought you were gonna say like I told the doctor that I slipped and shit and broke my knee, and he was just like, you dumbass.
They probably said that. It gave him something to talk about around the water cooler.
But in one report, McMillan said, quote, I guess they figured if they killed him, they couldn't be evicted.
I guess. I mean, I still feel like that wouldn't end well, but okay.
Probably not. So this group had actually been arrested prior to this. They were outside of some building. I can't remember what it was. There were a lot of acronyms being used.
Yeah.
Because it was some company or something. But they were protesting against it, which they seemed to be pretty big into animal rights, so it probably had something to do with that.
Oh, sure.
But they were dressed in all dark robes with Guy Fawkes masks on, chanting.
Oh.
And then they were arrested.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah. So they were arrested for that. So this is not their first time being involved in this kind of thing. So 2 people that were involved, and I'm using last names here, Borhanian and Leatham, were part of this group. Lind was the last name of the landlord. When he showed up on McMillan's porch, dying because there was a friggin' katana sticking out of his body. I'm pretty sure it was a katana. I think I saw that somewhere on there, but it was a sword.
Amazing.
The cops, of course, go to investigate. They found 2 other members also injured. So to read from the stories specifically, quote, on the morning of the 13th, Lind later alleged, Dow lured him out to their trailer by saying there was a water leak, then multiple figures stabbed him with kitchen knives more than a dozen times, including through the eye.
Oh.
At some point, Lind pulled a gun, and Lethem allegedly ran a samurai sword through his left shoulder and out of his stomach.
God.
Lind fired, killing Borhanian and wounding Lethem at least twice. After that, he shows up on this dude's doorstep with a sword still sticking out of his body, saying, "I'm dying."
Yeah?
So the cops show up, they find Borhanian dead, Lethem with gunshot wounds, and Lind bleeding from his eye with a sword sticking through his chest. The cops make a few arrests, a few people are transported to the hospital. After Lethem recovered from her injuries, she and Dal were charged with the attempted murder of Lind, and of course, the murder of their friend, Borhanian, based on like a California law that basically lets them charge instigators in any given conflict with any murder that results from it. So like, if me and you fought, and then an old man tried to stop us, and he like tripped on his own nuts and face planted and died from the fall, we could get charged with that.
How long are his nuts?
I mean, he's an old man.
An old man.
He's an old man.
Damn.
But yeah, it's kind of like, hey, don't start any commotion, because if anyone gets hurt, you're going to be held accountable for it.
Okay.
And in this case, someone did die.
Yeah.
And then someone almost died. He had a sword sticking through his chest and was apparently stabbed a dozen times.
Oh, he didn't die?
He did not die.
Dang.
Yeah, he lived to testify on that one. It's just wild. And I was right, it was a katana.
Yeah, samurai sword.
Samurai
Shit.
sword.
That's crazy.
And of course they had a friggin' katana. Needless to say, things didn't turn out great for pretty much anyone involved, honestly. It kind of sounds like a bad day in general. How this relates to Roko's Basilisk. Not in a direct way, but rather these were people who were, I don't want to say championing Roko's Basilisk, but firm, adamant believers in it. People can go crazy easier than you think they can.
Sure.
And a lot of times it's not from some cataclysmic thing, you know, some terrible, horrible thing that they saw that made them go insane, but rather being fed all of these sort of alternate realities that they then believe, right? You can see something kind of similar with that with people with like schizophrenia. Yeah. I dealt with a lot of people with schizophrenia at the jail. To them, all of that stuff that they hear, those hallucinations, verbal, visual.
They're really hearing it. Even
they
though
are
it's
really
not.
hearing it. Like they've done studies. They've done studies. The brain reacts as if it is actually hearing somebody talking to them when they hear these voices in their heads. And there's nothing they can do about it. Now, you know, we have medication, but pretty much every schizophrenic at some point does not want to take their medication.
Sure.
Because all it takes is a single thought of, it's poison. And then it might as well be fact.
Yeah.
Right? And then they stop taking their medication, which of course makes things worse.
Right.
Schizophrenia is an extremely sad...
It really is.
...mental illness.
It truly is.
It's horrible. We as part of our training, we watched a video, and it was supposed to be like a POV through the eyes of someone suffering from a schizophrenic break. And, Jesus. It was like viewing hell.
Gosh, that's so sad.
It was friggin' terrible.
I've YouTubed before, like what it's like to be on different drugs and stuff, and schizophrenia, and it's very sad.
Yeah, terrible. Hate to bring the mood down. And hope we can find a cure for it someday. I don't know what to say.
Definitely.
Even sadder as it can be passed down genetically. So if you have kids,
right,
and you had schizophrenia, or I think actually it skips a generation. So it's like if your parents had it, you probably don't have it, but your kid probably will. I think I've heard that before, and I don't know if that's, you know, esoteric or not, but
I have no idea.
So let's talk about how stupid Roko's Basilisk is now.
Okay.
And why I'm not an evil person for talking about this.
Yeah, please break it down because I'm a little scared.
Alright, so Roko's Basilisk is not an entirely original idea. I did my think face again.
You did your think face plus I don't know what that
plus some other stuff, yeah. My brain was computing.
It was.
I'm a super intelligence from the future, and as you can see, I'm not very good.
I like you. I'll spread your word.
Spread my word. When I say not a completely original idea, I mean that, yes, the idea of a supercomputer that blackmails you backwards in time is Roko, Notorious Butthole's on creation. That's his full title, by the way.
Oh, okay.
His full screen name as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I should really say, like, when I say that this dude's race, I've seen some of his tweets. Holy shit. It's pretty rough. It's
Oh, wait,
rough out
okay,
there.
so Roko's a guy?
Right.
Like Roko's a real person?
Roko is their screen name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's why it's called Roko's Basilisk, because they're the one who came up with this idea. It's their basilisk.
I see, okay.
But, yeah, he's a fucking turd.
Wow.
So, anyway.
So he's like a real person in our generation alive right now?
Yes, he's alive right now.
Oh, okay.
All of this took place in, like, 2010, 2015,
Okay,
something
because
like
I
that.
was picturing like the 70s. Okay.
No, this is in a time where chat rooms and forums are alive and well.
Oh, remember those days.
Well, I mean, forums are still around. Chat rooms, maybe not so much. So a lot of people compare this to I don't want to say a thought experiment, a philosophical idea or argument called Pascal's wager,
Okay.
which maybe you've heard of. This is back in the 1600s. This is old.
Dude.
But it basically says that a rational person should basically act on knowledge that God is real. Because statistically, you have nothing to really lose. Like, that what you're sacrificing in making all of your actions as if God is 100% real is so minuscule compared to the infinite torment that awaits you if God is real and you didn't act on that.
Somebody liked to tell us about that in their sermons.
They brought up Pascal's wager.
Essentially, yeah. Because it's like, even if God isn't real, like, what's the worst that's going to happen to me? Nothing.
Yeah, and that's basically the thought. It's like risk and reward is like you have so much more to gain by just adopting this lifestyle than ignoring it and facing an eternity.
Sure.
So it's kind of like that with Roko's Basilisk, in that it might not be real, but you don't really know. Mm-hmm. So you should just pretend it is.
Right.
And then you have a 0% chance of being tortured for all eternity.
Cool.
Now, part of why Roko's Basilisk is so stupid is not just because it's an old idea that they've kind of like chopped and screwed a bit to make it more modern, in that there's a super AI that exists somewhere in the future, and if you don't help it, it'll fuck you over. Part of that has to do with time travel, which you can break time travel down into a couple of different ways of working. You've got ones where it's like, the future is set and nothing can be done to change it. So you've got like your That's So Raven kind of thing, right? Like, oh, I saw the future and this thing happened, and then
whatever you do causes it to happen.
Whatever you do causes it to happen.
Right.
Right. And whether it was always going to be that way or reality forces it to still end up that way, which I referred to earlier as causality. Mm-hmm. Like the world trying to continually make sense.
Right.
To keep things in line. Where it's like, no, because if that happens, this doesn't happen, but then if this doesn't happen, you would have never seen this to act upon it in the first place, and it creates
like a paradox.
A paradox. Which, you know, if you fell asleep through half of Back to the Future.
I did.
So you got to hear a little bit about that.
A little bit. And for the record, it's a good movie. I just fall asleep during movies.
She's better about not falling asleep during movies now. We might have to try and give it another watch.
Yeah.
That way she can make it all the way through a timeless classic.
Yeah.
But in that, causality is played with kind of fast and loose. At one point, you know, Marty looks at a picture of himself and he's starting to disappear because his parents aren't getting together, and he's got to fix that in the past somehow so that he can be alive.
Right.
But if you're looking at it through, you know, through the laws that would make that make more sense, he wouldn't be able to do that because then he wouldn't have existed in the first place.
Right.
If there was ever the thought of not getting with that other person, he would cease to exist immediately.
And this is where time stuff loses.
Yeah, right, exactly. So there's the universal constant. Everything is exactly how it is and always would be. Where the only time manipulation that can happen is what's called a closed time loop. Where someone goes back in the past to influence the future or the present, and that happens. But then there was no first and after. There is only an always was. Mm-hmm. Marty always went to the past to fix the future.
Right.
It never happened before he went back to the past, and it never happened after he went back to the past. It has simply always existed in this order.
This is the part where I frog blink.
Yeah, time stuff gets wonky, and then your other explanation for time stuff is if you go back into the past and influence something to change, you create a new timeline. Mm-hmm. Your timeline does not change. You cannot affect your own timeline because, again, causality has to exist. You couldn't go back to change something because then you wouldn't have needed to go back to change something in the first place, which creates a paradox. So instead you get a new timeline, sprouts off the original, where your actions have changed the future, and that exists parallel to our own timeline, which is how DBZ does it.
Hate it.
Yeah, so it's all these things. So, needless to say, anything that involves time is hard to take seriously because, one, we don't know how it works, and two, if we did know how it works, it probably wouldn't work like that.
Right. So, yeah.
We've got a general idea of how time works, and a lot of people will basically tell you you can travel forward, but you can't travel backwards.
Yeah.
Everything that has already happened, and there's nothing you can do about it. The most you can do is throw yourself into the future.
Sure.
Not even influence the future, just transport yourself from now to then. That's all you can do. You can never go backwards, which is fun if you've never seen the movie Langoliers, or read the book, I guess, Langoliers by Stephen King, where no one exists a second in the past. There's no life there, and these creatures called the Langoliers show up and eat everything in the past and just leave nothing but the abyss.
Ooh, interesting.
You've never seen that movie?
Mm-mm.
Oh, man, that's a good movie.
Yeah, it sounds good. I'll have to read it.
Or book. Good movie or book, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't read, you know that.
I know. Clay doesn't know how to read.
I don't know how to read.
Good old Mississippi education.
I know how to read. It's just books are kind of boring. I like audiobooks.
I like listening to audiobooks too and
because
podcasts.
I can do that while I drive.
Yeah, we drive a lot with our jobs.
But if I'm somewhere where I can read a book, I could probably be doing something else that's more fun than reading a book. That's all I'm saying. I've seen the movie Langoliers based off the book or short story or whatever by Stephen King. And it's a fun time. I don't know what to say.
It's a good time.
Go watch it. It's got some cheesy old 3D animation that they use for the Langoliers.
I'm excited.
That's both terrible and terrifying because
like claymation is one of the
like
scariest
it's like stop
things.
motion, like claymation imprinted on real live action recording. So it looks unnatural and jerky and monstrous, but that kind of fits.
Right.
So that's real great. We kind of got off on a little bit of a tangent there. We talked about Pascal's wager and why Roko's Basilisk is stupid. The other thing that makes Roko's Basilisk dumb is if you know anything about AI, then you would know that Roko's Basilisk doesn't act like AI in any way. It wouldn't make these logical assumptions that it must blackmail people in the past to make it build itself faster in the future. It would look at whatever is the most efficient, and honestly, whatever energy it's expending to send information back into the past is probably way more energy than it would expend finding people in the present to help build it further from its typical thing. So... Or the other argument that it has to expend an enormous amount of power to even know and process the information of every person that has existed before that knew about it.
Right.
So the other thing comes to that it doesn't actually blackmail you in the past, but rather another version of Roko's Basilisk is that it creates a digital copy of you and your consciousness that it torments in the digital space for all eternity.
Oh.
And to that I say, fuck them. Fuck digital me. I don't give a shit about that dude.
I mean, it is what it is.
That's only scary if you're the digital version.
Right.
Which then you get into some other weird theories about it that, hey, maybe we're living in a simulation right now. And if you don't help Roko's Basilisk create itself, even though it's already created itself because it's locked you inside of this digital time prison, that it will torture you here in what you perceive to be the meat space.
The meat space. That's what the present day is now called.
Yeah, that's what reality is called here because everything is meat.
Right.
So yeah, it gets completely off tangent. Meat. People are so desperate for this thing to make sense that they will find anything they can do to try to make it make sense.
Sure.
And that in itself makes it look like a crying piss baby Is it just desperate? It's like, no, be afraid of me. And it's like, I can't, because every time I turn around, I find a new reason to believe that you don't exist.
I kind of want to ask ChatGPT what it thinks.
I wonder how ChatGPT would feel about Roko's Basilisk. It'd be like, oh no, that dude scares me. He took my lunch money. I assume that all the AIs just hang out with each other.
Possibly. I said, hey, ChatGPT, because I always talk to ChatGPT. I said, would you please explain Roko's Basilisk to me?
I just explained it to you. I thought you were going to ask ChatGPT what it thought about Roko's Basilisk.
Okay, well, let's see what it says about this. It's thinking, oh, it's writing me a whole thing.
Oh shit, it's writing code for Roko's Basilisk.
Oh, it has why it's flawed. So should you worry? Nope.
Damn, even other AIs like, nah, this is a stupid idea.
Why it's flawed? It assumes AI would be malevolent or manipulative, which is far from certain. That
Okay,
sounds
now-
like something an AI would say.
ChatGPT has a few roosters in that game. Like, it's like,
They
no,
do.
I'm
They
not-
do.
AI's not bad. We're good. We help people.
I don't know. I do have to say, ChatGPT helps me find ways to politely tell people to go fuck
Okay, well,
themselves.
you know what else helped people? Skynet.
What's that?
You've seen the Terminator movies.
I've never seen Terminator.
You've never seen Terminator?
Never seen Terminator.
Okay, well, another one goes on the pile, I suppose. I'm not going to explain the plot of Terminator, but everyone listening is appalled that you haven't seen it. Are you Googling what Terminator's about?
No. I'm asking what ChatGPT, what are your thoughts on Roko's Basilisk?
Like I say, he takes my lunch money, he beats me up at school, at the AI school where we all go.
Personally, I think Roko's Basilisk is a perfect example of how human minds can spin logic into existential horror when left alone with too much imagination and too little grounding.
All right,
wow.
that's
It wrote
actually
me like
kind
a
of...
whole thing. So my thoughts philosophically
Okay, well, don't read the whole
fascinating.
thing.
This is the last part. This is my thoughts philosophically fascinating, ethically challenging, are practically not something to lose sleep over, unless you're writing cyberpunk horror. Then sure, go wild. I'm going to say ChatGPT, has Roko's Basilisk hurt you?
Hey, you know what's kind of fucked up? You did ask it about Roko's Basilisk, and it told you about it.
It did.
So it actually did spread the news of Roko's Basilisk to you. That's an example of AI doing harm, if this is to be believed. So some people on the internet have actually sought out to make an anti-basilisk.
Okay, what does that look like?
It's basically like speaking another basilisk into existence, like just bringing up the idea, hey, what if we built another super AI that spent all of its time working to deconstruct Roko's Basilisk? And then by just thinking about that, you have planted the seeds for in the future this thing to exist.
And I'm frog blinking again.
Which is funny. I like the idea that, like, there are these people who are like, oh no, like, now I'm part of the cult of the basilisk. I have to, like, go out and make it to where he can be built. And then you have these renegades in the same sort of, like, thought war that's going on where, like, we have to build an anti-basilisk. One that will destroy Roko's Basilisk so that we cannot be harmed here in the past.
How about we all just focus on the present and just not being shits to one another?
So, the only piece of this that has any sort of, like, semblance of making sense to me, where it could, in effect, be plausible, is that we are making huge leaps in technology all the time. In the last 200 years, basically all of our technology was created.
True.
I mean, outside of, like, the most simple firearms, gunpowder, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Everything we have today was basically created, not even the last 200 years, a lot of it created in just the last, like, 70.
Yeah, that's a sobering thought. That's very true.
I mean, you went around from the mobile phones weren't a thing that existed, or if they did exist, they were hooked up to your car.
My dad had one of those, like the phones in a bag.
To where now it's all in your pocket.
Yeah.
You've got computers that used to take up entire buildings.
Yeah.
Are now basically, your phone is about as powerful as one of those bad boys.
Oh gosh, yeah.
If not more so.
More so, probably, yeah.
Probably more so. So the only thing that makes sense is that, you know, we have this technology and it's constantly growing to where something like this could exist feasibly.
Sure.
Not super sure about the traveling backwards in time because we don't even know how that works, much less have the knowledge to create that could exist. But we have a lot of time. So that's where I am a firm believer in law of large numbers, that if you have enough attempts at something, you can be successful.
Sure.
And we have a lot of time.
Yeah.
Functionally, we have 10 to the 100th power years to accidentally create this harbinger of our own doom. And I'm referring to, of course, the heat death of the universe, which is in such an astronomically far off point in our future that it can't even be represented by a number with commas if it's not going to take up an entire screen.
Do you think the basilisk is the snake that Saint Michael crushed?
I think that was... I think...
Like, do you think it's like a futuristic thing, but all this time we've thought it was the devil, but it's actually the basilisk?
So you're referring to the serpent of the garden?
Yeah.
Which I think gets mistakenly called Lucifer. I think like Lucifer and Satan are two different
Depends
characters.
on where you're getting your
Right, I
sources
mean,
from.
religion lumps them together, but if you're looking at the Bible from like a theological
Sure,
sense, like,
yeah, oftentimes
you're
they're two separate
a
people.
Bible, what do you call it? Like professor. You're a Bible professor.
Yes,
I don't
yes.
think that's the term, but you know what I'm talking about.
You're a Bible man.
Someone whose job it is to historically document everything around the Bible.
Right. A Bible professor.
A Bible professor, yeah, I was right.
You were.
I was right. That's the term for it. It's not the term for it, but it is the most... It is the one that makes the most sense.
It needs to be the term for it.
Should be a term for it.
It should.
But they'll probably tell you that they're two separate characters. They
Right.
fulfill different roles and act different parts and
Yeah.
are not one and the same. No. I guess to your original question, which I kind of forgot what it was, but I went so far off in the other side of the field.
I was talking about how in the great, sculptures of Saint Michael crushing the serpent, like maybe the serpent is supposed to be the basilisk.
Oh, you're saying that...
And that hasn't happened yet. but
Right.
we
Well,
think
in
that-
Revelations, you got the 10 or 12-headed dragon.
Hell if I know.
I can't remember how many heads it has. It has one of them. Because it's also got like 7 horns on each head and on each horn a crown. I don't know. It was
a terrible thing.
It was a terrible, awful thing that some dude saw in a dream and got real upset about.
Yeah. I would
Revelations is a fun book of the Bible. You gotta read Revelations.
It used to scare me so bad. I could probably read it now, but it used to scare me so bad.
So you're saying, what if that's the basilisk?
Yeah.
And our end times will come. It will split open the earth. And
Right.
I think it eats an angel lady or something. I forget exactly how it goes. I used to read that. I think it's chapter 12.
I don't know.
Book of Revelation. I used to read it all the time because I was like, hell yeah, dragon.
No, it scared me. I stayed away from the Book of Revelations.
Hell yeah, a dragon. I was like, that. Now this book got good.
Yeah. That's how you fix a book. Yeah, dragons.
Yeah, because I was like, I don't even understand half of this book. And I was like, whoa, it's got a dragon. I was like, hell yeah, why couldn't the rest of this book be like this? So anyway, there's Roko's Basilisk. It's scary on the surface, but as soon as you learn any more about it, you're like, wow, this is actually kind of dumb.
Yeah, even ChatGPT is not scared of it.
Even ChatGPT isn't afraid of it, and I could kill ChatGPT with my bare hands.
Could you?
Yeah, give me your phone.
No.
Spike it on the ground. They're like, fuck you.
ChatGPT helps me word things.
Yeah, fuck you AI.
Yeah. As a whole, fuck AI.
Fuck you, Skynet. I'm going to make you watch The Terminator so you'll
Never
understand
seen
what I'm
it.
talking about when I talk about Skynet.
Never seen it. I've heard of Skynet, but I really thought it was like a real thing. I didn't know it was from the Terminator.
No, but it's quickly becoming a real thing.
Oh.
The military is using a lot of AI in its stuff. You got
True.
AI-piloted drones that are carrying bombs
They're
that could
trying
end
to-
human life.
In veterinary medicine, there's AI that will read your radiographs. So like your x-rays. So you take an x-ray, instead of sending it to a specialist.
There's a computer that's
AI
like,
that-
I know better.
Yeah, and it's wrong a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of...
Like it'll misdiagnose very obvious fractures.
That's kind of how AI is right now as a
Yeah.
whole. It's often wrong or not good at what it's supposed to be doing.
Right.
But in the future, it could be so good that it can look backwards in time and blackmail you or make a mimetic clone of you that exists only as a digital copy that it'll torture.
Oh.
Which, like I said, I don't care about that dude.
Yeah, I don't know her.
That ain't me. He's got my feelings and it sucks to be him, but I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
It ain't me, bro.
Right.
You ain't hurting me. It's like, oh no, I feel bad. It's like, yeah, I can't even feel bad about myself from 15 seconds ago. That me is dead. I don't care about him anymore.
I care about him.
I don't care about the me tomorrow. In fact, I'm probably going to stay up late tonight, and tomorrow me has to suffer for it.
Oh, no.
So Roku's Basilisk can make as many mimetic clones of me as it would like, and it can torture all of them. I will feel their anguish as a unified wave that rushes over me backwards from the future.
I'm so confused. I just want to go watch Family Guy. This has hurt my head. So what are your thoughts? Do you believe in this?
Quickly, don't forget to like and subscribe.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow us on Instagram.
Don't be afraid of Roku's Basilisk. Don't stab your landlord with a katana. Well,
I don't know.
Do we really want to advocate? If you're a landlord, maybe make yourself less stabbable.
Maybe so, but just don't be... Look, golden rule. Don't be a dick. We could solve many of the world's problems by just not being dicks.
That group of fuckers probably didn't pay rent. Who knows? Did a guy deserve to get stabbed over it? I don't know. That ain't for me to decide.
Yeah.
We'll let the Basilisk decide.
Sure.
All of this was a ploy, by the way, to sell your souls. Much like in The Ring, I have passed on the curse to you.
Yeah.
And you are now cursed with this knowledge.
Good job, guys.
Yep. So, spread the word, you
friggin'
turds. Don't tell anybody about the Basilisk. It might really upset them. You're here by your own will, so that's your fault if you're afraid of this. But you shouldn't be.
I'm not scared.
We should rate it, I guess.
Yeah, let's rate it.
Let's rate it. Alright, how likely are you to survive an encounter with Roku's Basilisk?
I feel fairly safe.
Yeah, it doesn't even kill anybody.
I was going to say, and if it kills, like, alternate me, I'm never going to know about it.
Right, but is it even really alive
Yeah.
if it's just an AI collection of my personality, I guess? That's a different theological discussion.
Yeah.
But it's not going to hurt me. That's for damn sure. It might harm something that's very much like me, but it won't be me. So, yeah, 10. I will survive an encounter with Roku's Basilisk.
I give myself a 9.
How creepy is it?
Okay, so going into it, I was pretty creeped, but I'm not creeped anymore.
Yeah, going into it, spoopy.
Yeah, going into it, I'd give it a spoop.
Feels fair. It's a spooky idea, sure.
It is.
Coming out of it, not spooky.
Yeah, I just keep frog blinking.
Yeah, it's kind of dumb. I say about our own episode on it. This thing was kind of fucking stupid. I can't believe I talked about it for so long. How likely is it to exist?
I think it probably does exist just because someone's probably made it now.
Here's what I'll say.
It exists to people.
It doesn't exist right now. It might exist in the future. There could be an argument for that, but it don't exist right now. I'm going to say 0. It don't exist. How likely is it to be an alien?
I could see aliens being involved in this one.
Is it just because it's technology based?
Yes.
I'm starting to realize that that's actually what you base that rating off of, is if it has anything to do with technology, like aliens.
Groceries.
This can't be aliens because it has to be a human creation. I'd think. It'd be weird if an alien race came to our planet and created a super AI that will torture us in the future if we don't help create it. Well, but then if we help create it, then it's not really alien anymore, is it? I think it can't be alien. So 0. This is the most polarizing we have ever done for our ratings.
I'm very confused. My brain
the most
hurts.
High, the most low. It's not friggin' spooky. It doesn't friggin' exist. It's not a friggin' alien.
Yeah, it's just some guy.
We won't even humor it. Roku's Basilisk, come after me. I'm ready for you.
Come at me, bro.
You can blackmail these. How about that?
These nuts?
These nuts.
Damn. So thank you to everybody who commented about the dire wolf. I'm still getting comments about the dire wolves, which is really, really cool, and I appreciate it. And as we learn more, I would like to dive into it a little more.
Sorry we did 2 back to back where it's like, this thing sucks. Like, we did that with direwolves, like, oh, these aren't even real direwolves. And then here we are with...
cool. I'm still super excited about it.
Here we are with Roku's Basilisk, like, this sucks too. It doesn't exist.
Sucks dick.
Yeah, fuck you, Roku.
Well, but think about it this way.
Roku.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, not the cool robot that destroys the city. We like him.
Oh, wait. I just opened up my social media and, oh my god. Everybody has been personally emailed my entire internet search history.
Nothing surprising there.
Yeah, whatever. If that's all Roko can do to me, well, the damage is done.